Hi everyone, my name is Natalie DC and welcome back to my channel. I'm a reader, writer, and artist here to talk about books with you. And art, and maybe a little bit of writing. In today's video, we'll be going over all of the purple books that I read in the month of June. I don't have a sweater on today because I don't have a purple sweater, so I have on the next best thing, a random t-shirt I found in the back of my closet. So without further ado, let's get started. So I read a total of 6 purple books in the month of June alongside some other arcs, but since their covers are not purple, I will not be talking about them in today's video. If you're interested in reading my reviews of those other books, you can check out my Goodreads and Storygraph in the description box below, but we'll just be talking about those 6 purple books. So the first purple book that I read in the month of June is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is the first book in the Bright Falls romance series by Ashley Herring Blake. I'm familiar with Ashley Herring Blake's other works such as Girl Made of Stars and How to Make a Wish. Those are 2 other books I've read of hers that I really loved. And when I heard she was coming out with a steamy queer romance, I couldn't resist. So this book follows Delilah Green, who is as I put it in my Goodreads review, a love-starved artist from small town Oregon, living in New York City. She gets a call from her stepsister Astrid, who she has very complicated relationship with her family, but her stepsister asks her to be the photographer of her wedding. So Delilah agrees, mostly for the money that she needs to pay her rent in New York City. So she goes back to the home that never really felt like a home and in turn gets swept up in Astrid's posse that used to make fun of her as a child, one of whom happens to be Claire Sutherland, who we also get her POV in the book, and she is a bookstore owner with a preteen on her hands. Her loneliness causes her to approach Delilah, and as the two form a witty banter relationship, sparks fly and they end up falling in love against this backdrop of a wedding from hell. So I really enjoyed this book. I could not put it down. It was very engaging. All of the characters were super realistic, very likable as well. None of them, I don't remember any single one being super unlikable, except of course the ones that were kind of supposed to be unlikable, such as Delilah's stepsister Astrid. There are many points where Astrid is being obviously a bitch to Delilah, and Delilah is to blame for some reason, but those are moments that are meant to kind of annoy the reader, so I'll let those pass, of course. The dual perspectives were very effective in telling this story. We didn't really get anyone else's perspective, which I love when authors do that, where they choose just a very select group of POVs to pick from and they just stick with those. They don't veer off in any other direction. So yeah, I did appreciate that, as well as, of course, any steamy romance needs some witty banter. I love when authors get the witty banter and the really cute dialogue right. I love when that happens. It's just so fun to read, and this is a very dialogue heavy book, so it made me enjoy most of the book. There are a few tropes in this romance, as there is with any romance, such as the one bed trope. That was pretty entertaining. There is what I like to call the bet that bites you in the ass trope, which I really didn't see coming. It was like briefly mentioned at the start of the book, and then at the end of the book it comes back, which I guess is one way to do it, but it felt really unnecessary to me at that point, kind of like in romances I've talked about in the past, where at the end it's very inevitable the characters are going to get together, but the author kind of forces a conflict to get in the way at the last moment. So I don't really like it when romances do that. This romance kind of did that with the bet that bites you in the ass trope, so for that reason I kind of had to bump off a little less than a star. I gave this book 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this book, and I'm looking forward to picking up the second book in the Bright Falls series that actually follows Delilah's stepsister Astrid as she tries to put her love life back together. I would definitely recommend this book. It's a really cute summer romance. If you haven't picked it up, definitely do check it out. The next purple book that I read in the month of June is One True Loves, the second book in the Happily Ever Afters series by Elise Bryant. Now, I've read the first book in the Happily Ever Afters series, and I really enjoyed that book. I loved Elise Bryant's writing style. She is a very new author, so I wanted to check out more of her work, and just so happens that she released the second book in that series, so I picked it up. It follows Tessa, the main character from the previous books, best friend Lenore, as she goes on a post-high school graduation Mediterranean cruise. While this seems to be like the ideal life, like she's living it up on this cruise, she's meeting new people, she's heading to NYU in the fall. Her parents have really heavy expectations on her. They want her to figure out what she wants to do with her life. They want her to figure out what she's going to major in the fall, because she's at the moment undeclared. So she's under a lot of pressure to, by the end of the vacation, figure out what she wants to do with her life. So as she's grappling with all of this, she meets a boy her age named Alex, and as the two hit it off over the course of the cruise, she has to figure out what it is she really wants, both in her romantic life and her academic life. So this book is very much a typical YA coming-of-age story, trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, while also grappling with, of course, a romance or two. Needless to say, Elise Bryant is definitely a master at writing realistic teen characters. There was never a moment where I thought that these characters were unrealistic or that they were too juvenile or too mature for their age. Lenore felt just right as far as her confusion and complicated, overwhelming feelings regarding her situation. And yeah, it was just very relatable. All in all, there's not much to say about this novel. My only really big qualm about this book is that Alex, Lenore's love interest, didn't seem to get as much characterization as her and her friends and family, which is understandable as he's kind of a side character to Lenore's whole plot arc. But still, I would have liked to see more scenes between Lenore and Alex of him like opening up about his life, instead of just like offhand remarks about like what he's going to be when he grows up. But other than that, I really enjoyed this read. I gave it, again, 4.25 stars. I thought it was a really solid sequel to the Happily Ever After series, and I would definitely recommend that people check it out, especially if you enjoyed the first book of this series. So the next purple book that I read in the month of June is Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. This book follows Laura, who is a teenage girl returning from a whirlwind summer to her senior year. She's always had eyes for the football star quarterback at her school, Chase Harding, except now when she goes to her senior year, she is not only immediately approached by and noticed by her crush, which is very unusual, she is also internally very confused about her feelings, since in the previous summer, the reader discovers that she was on a whirlwind romance with this mysterious girl named Jasmine, who she met during her and her mom's stay in the Outer Banks. So this book goes back and forth between Laura's past in that summer and Laura's present in her senior year, as she tries to grapple with her two love interests. She tries to figure out what she wants. Jasmine transfers to her school, which makes it even more difficult to grapple with her romantic feelings. All in all, this is a feel-good coming-of-age novel about a girl who finally gets the attention of her crush, only to realize that she is crushing hard on her mother's boss's daughter. Very messy, hence why I wanted to pick up this book so bad. I definitely appreciated the back and forth perspectives between Laura's past and her present, as it makes the reader really resonate with Laura's confusing and complex feelings regarding Jasmine. I also loved all of the representation that we get throughout this book. There is aro ace rep, there is non-binary rep, and of course the two lead love interests are both Jewish, one of whom is Sephardic, which is definitely a unusual representation, which I definitely appreciated as a Sephardic Jew. So unfortunately, I wasn't as crazy with the romance as I would have liked. Jasmine, during Laura's past, acts like a completely different person than she does in Laura's present in her senior year. In the past, Jasmine is very loving and caring and definitely seems to have romantic feelings towards Laura, whereas in the present, Jasmine seems to be very bitter and resentful towards Laura for reasons that the reader does not yet understand, but when the reason is forth, it really doesn't make sense in the context. I can't really say much more without spoiling, but yeah, I don't know. Jasmine's reasoning for being upset with Laura or ignoring her doesn't really make sense with her character. She very much acts out of character in the present, so making Jasmine have such different sides to her, it made me not really understand why Laura is still into Jasmine at the end of the book when they inevitably get together. That, combined with the fact that we really don't get scenes in the present between Laura and Jasmine that are like cute and fluffy and romantic. It's mostly just in the past that those kinds of scenes happen, which isn't really a good precedent to set for a romance that is inevitably going to happen in the present day time. And the fact that this entire book just hinges upon a massive miscommunication between the two main characters, which I'm not a fan of. Miscommunication tropes aren't really my cup of tea. All in all, this was a feel-good coming-of-age story, but the romance was a bit lackluster for those reasons that I just listed. So in the end, I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was pretty good, but not as good as I had hoped. Shifting gears completely, the next book that I read in the month of June is Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. I am familiar with one of Nina LaCour's previous work, We Are Okay. I really love that novel, and I love Nina LaCour's writing style. That is, again, something that really stuck with me, and it's why I picked up this book, as it sounded really cool and magical and really heartbreaking. Not at all a romance, which is why I said we were shifting gears. This book follows Mila, who is a young woman who has recently graduated from high school, and she has aged out of the foster care system. After she graduates high school, she is offered a teaching position and a place to live on the Northern California coast on this very secluded farm. She accepts, as she thinks that she might finally be able to find a home that actually feels like a home there. And what follows is a series of events that's magical, mysterious, and heartbreaking, just as I had hoped. I'm happy to report that this novel has it all. Beautiful prose, a story that is haunted by the tragic memories of Mila's past, a sad, reflective tone, and a myriad of really unique motifs that just make you want to never leave the warm embrace of this magical story. This book deals with themes of learning to heal from trauma, learning to open up to others, finding a home amongst strangers, and all in all, I really enjoyed this novel. It is under 300 pages, so it was a super easy read. The chapters, I believe, were relatively short, which I definitely appreciated. The only two qualms I had about this book really was its ending. I felt that it could have been a little less open-ended, and it could have carried a little more emotional weight, as the book was definitely building up towards a kind of climactic ending, but it kind of just fizzled out at the end, in my opinion. So I definitely would have appreciated a change in that sort of ending. In addition to the side characters' interactions with the main character, I wish we got to see more of those, as when we did get to see those, they were definitely really poignant and heartwarming, so I wish we got to see more of those instead of just seeing Mila left to her own devices and left to her own dark thoughts. But other than those two minor critiques, this novel was a stunning read from start to finish. It was definitely a poignant exploration of healing from past trauma and trying to find a home when you haven't felt at home in any place in a long time. And yeah, this has just made me want to read more of Nina LaCour's works. I gave this book 4.25 stars. I would definitely recommend you check it out. The next purple book that I read in the month of June is Vinyl Moon by Mahogany Browne. This book follows a teenage girl named Angel as she tries to fit in her new neighborhood, her new school, after a traumatic event that rocks her world to the core. She finds a home amongst famous Black writers, as well as her peers' writing, and eventually these words inspire her to create her own poetry and to consequentially heal from her traumatic past. This book is a combination of prose and poetry. It seamlessly blends these two mediums together. The calm, reflective tone that the story takes on definitely resonated with me, and it made me want to continue to read Angel's story. The book is pretty short, so it is definitely an easy read to get through. The only qualms I really had about this book was the verse part of this in-verse novella. I definitely thought the author could have put a lot more effort into the verse part, as many of it just felt like prose that was kind of just, you hit enter on a line and then you hit enter on another line, kind of just to make it look like poetry. Poetry can be whatever you want it to be. I myself, as a poet, can attest to that, definitely. But I don't know, I just would have liked to see more effort being put into the verse part of this, as it is definitely a way for Angel to communicate her thoughts and feelings, and I feel like it should kind of have a different style and tone than the rest of the prose portion of this novel. But that's just my opinion. All in all, this was a really enjoyable read, and definitely a very poignant one that deals with themes of mental health, PTSD, and depression in a new environment. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I would definitely recommend it, if only for this gorgeous purple cover here. The last purple book that I read in the month of June is Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. This book follows 19-year-old Juliet as she leaves her home of the Bronx. She leaves her family the summer after she comes out as a lesbian to them, and she heads towards Portland for this internship where she gets to work under the author of her favorite book, Carloe Brisbane, who, in her words, is the ultimate authority on feminism, women's bodies, and other gay-sounding stuff. She's going to work under this woman, not really knowing what the internship entails, just knowing that she, you know, needs the credits for her. So this book takes place over the course of this internship, which goes over the course of her summer, as she learns more about the gay community, especially in Portland, Oregon. She learns more about her roots as a queer Latina, and she learns more about this seemingly idyllic woman who she adores. This story has it all. It definitely impressed me. I did not think I was going to love this book as much as I thought I would, but it certainly has it all. It has an excellent protagonist voice. Her narration is super funny and quirky, but like not in an annoying way. I definitely loved Juliet's character, and her narration definitely played a huge role in my love for her. All of the characters, her included, are lovable, diverse, and realistic. We get a wide range of characters in this ensemble cast. We get witty dialogue alongside serious discussions about intersectional feminism that, as I put in my Goodreads review, will make any chronically online SJW such as myself swoon, which it definitely did. I love the seamless way we go from, you know, joking around between the characters to discussing very important topics in our society today. I love doing that with my friends and family, and seeing this book do it in like pretty much the exact same way. I don't know, it just struck a chord within me, and I really loved it. I love how Juliet is very new to all of these topics, especially within the LGBTQ community, so she's not familiar with many terms that are used, such as things like being non-binary or being not gender non-conforming. So as she's learning about all these new vocabulary from her cousin who lives in Florida that she communicates with throughout the novel, as well as characters in Portland that she stumbles upon, her ignorance is never demonized, which I really appreciated. Instead, she is met with very much understanding and love, and she is given an adequate explanation that won't put any pressure on the person explaining it to her, but it also will invite her to explore more and discover more by doing her own research on her own time, which I definitely think was one of the things that was done really well throughout this book. That method of giving the protagonist the benefit of the doubt with their ignorance and explaining to them what they did wrong or what they're unfamiliar with, and kind of moving on. Like, I think that was a very healthy and really realistic way to deal with these issues, and it's definitely a great message to send to people who are new to this topic as well in real life. Putting forth explanations such as these, I don't know, it really warmed my heart, and yeah, I thought it was a great way to go about this message. This, alongside Harlowe, her very much exclusive feminism is challenged and debated in very nuanced ways, and as Juliet learns to grapple with her idol being not all she's cracked up to be. Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting aspect of the story, and very much a great path to go down as we headed towards the climax and resolution of this novel. My only really critique of this novel is the lack of interactions between Juliet and her family. As I said, her family is located in the Bronx and her cousin is located in Florida. We do get a scene where Juliet, who is distressed from an event I'm not going to spoil, she's distressed, she heads to Florida to be with her cousin, and I love their interactions as her cousin introduces her to topics that Juliet was not familiar with before. I would have liked to see Juliet hang out more with her mom, as there is a conflict between her and her mother, as she had just come out to her and her mother just like doesn't know how to feel, as well as her little brother, who we learn is also dealing with his own issues and is trying to communicate that to his big sister. So yeah, Their interactions were cute, but they were very sparse, and I would have liked to see more of those, as family is definitely a big theme that is prevalent throughout this novel. But other than that, this was a really solid read. It was entertaining, it was informative, maybe not to me, but to other readers. And all in all, I believe this is a very great introduction to intersectionality as a whole. So if you're looking for a fictional book that tackles these topics, I would definitely recommend this book. My explanation doesn't do jack shit for the work that this book does, so I would definitely recommend that you check that out. So guys, those are all the books that I read in the month of June. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below what you read recently or what you read in the month of June. And before you go, if you are interested in poetry, my debut poetry chapbook, Blue Pearl, shamelessly self-promoting as usual, Blue Pearl, it is available for purchase from Bottle Cap Press. You can purchase it using the link in my description box. But yeah guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, whatever you're feeling, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!